So, ladies and gentlemen, hi. I'm Eric Cameron. I'm a professor at Passaic County College, and I'm going to be teaching programming online in the fall. And my thought was I could put together some of the videos, put them up on YouTube, and hopefully they benefit students in addition to my students. So this is for CIS 108, which is a programming fundamentals course. And I thought I'd tackle kind of, first of all, what is programming and why am I taking this type of course? Why do I need programming? Because these are some of the questions I get frequently from my students. So if you were to ask any room of programmers if their major is not programming, why they have to take this course, it's probably because it says on their requirements that thou shalt take this course, which makes sense. You know, like most of you are not going to want to take courses that don't do anything for you. So the first question before we talk about why it's going to benefit you, let's talk about what it is. And in a very basic form, it's going to be teaching the computer to turn data into information, how to take input and process that into output. And you can see down bottom, I have an example here. I don't know why the thread color changed, but it works. Your input is your thread. Your processing is somebody doing the sewing or, you know, whatever. I'm not that versed on darning. I don't know, whatever it is. But putting the sweater together, and the output is going to be, as you see at the end, a nice sweater. So when you take a programming class, your idea is you're going to teach the computer to do this. And you might say, well, doesn't the computer already do that? And the answer is, yeah, it kind of does. That's because there's software on there that somebody's already programmed, whether it's Chrome or Firefox or Safari or web browsers. You type in a website address, you hit enter, and you get the results. Microsoft Word, you type in a document and you spell something wrong, and immediately you get the little squiggly line underneath it. The program is processing your input and turning that into output. So it is something that your computer does, but it's only because programmers, people who have some knowledge of programming, have set that machine up to do so, have set that software up to do so. So basically, if you say, what is programming, you're writing software. So I wanted to go over kind of how it works and how it's going to be used in different majors. So at my college, which is a two-year college, we have really five degrees in which you'll find the programming utilized. Computer science, typically that's going to be your really programming type major. It'll be found in the engineering curriculum, in information technology, or what we're now calling at our college computer information technology. You'll find that the math majors take it, and also we have a major called medical informatics. These are the five majors that would take it at our college. Some of you, if you're viewing this on YouTube, your school might have you taking it in biology or some other STEM major, but at least in my school, this is who our target audience is. So in terms of a computer science major, this is effectively their degree. Their degree is really founded in programming. This is the degree when I went to college. It was really the only computer-related degree at that point. Nowadays, you do have a little more specialized stuff, but you'll find that people do application development. That's something that you learn how to do by programming. How do I develop an application? And what you'll find when I say development, it's not just how do we create the app, but how do we develop it? How do we plan it? How do we structure it? All of these are going to be things that we would find as part of application development. So the further you go along in your programming career, the less programming you'll do, because you'll probably be the person designing those types of interfaces and handing it off to some of the newer programmers to implement. In my background, My most recent job before I was teaching, I was putting defense systems on helicopters. And, in the few years I was there, I really didn't have a hand in developing those requirements, but I took part in a lot of bug testing, fixing issues in the code, testing, trying to detect issues before, you don't want a helicopter to suddenly have its defense system crash in the middle of a flight. So testing was also very important. And you also find out of many computer science degrees, there is some options for specialization. So for example, one of my personal favorites is databases. I love databases. I've written 2 textbooks on databases for Pearson. But there will be a number of areas where you can specialize coming out of a computer science curriculum. So databases certainly is one of them. Mobile application development is another one. Things like data science and data analysis, although we're starting to see degrees in those types of areas. But if you're not quite sure what you want to do in computing, a computer science degree is kind of your introduction to all of that. And then as you get into your sophomore, junior, senior year, you have some electives and you could choose to specialize. My alma mater, which is Montclair State University in New Jersey, they have electives in things nowadays in robotics, for example. They have electives in artificial intelligence. They have electives in system software, like how you would write a system, like an operating system like Windows or Mac OS or Android, Linux, etc. So if you're going into computer science, this is really what you are looking for. And it happens at my school. It may happen to you as well. We do find sometimes students come in and they want something a little more hands-on and they get put into this degree. Sometimes because the advisors maybe don't quite understand the distinction between computer science and some of the more hands-on programs, which we'll talk about. Normally I'd pause for questions, but comments, I guess. So we'll also see areas such as engineering do take this type of course. One of the biggest places that you would find that is going to be computer engineering. Computer engineering is an entire sub-discipline of an engineering degree, and that involves a lot of not only designing the systems, but also designing the programming to make those systems work. So going back to my example of my last job, we were working on a defense system. There were people who were really more systems engineers, and they understood a lot more about the hardware than I did. From my perspective as a programmer, we got magically from the aircraft that it detected some sort of threat, and then, we responded as such. I don't know, I still, don't really understand the 100% how all of that was detected and processed and analyzed. Because those folks were mostly engineers, either electrical or, for some of the newer folks, computer engineers. Another thing that you'll find is data analysis. It is important in engineering to analyze data, and these types of things give you that sort of background. Even programs like Excel include some programming functionality, and we would certainly expect some programmers to apply those skills to some of those areas. And although we kind of said hardware programming, if you design a piece of hardware, oftentimes you are the person who is going to design that interface. How, if I'm a software engineer, I need to know how to tell that piece of hardware to do something. So oftentimes that's a computer engineer. But you'll find that this is a pretty standard part of most engineering curriculums, even mechanical, civil, biochemical, petroleum. You'll find that most of those degrees do have some sort of programming in them. Now, information technology, at my college, we have 3 options in our, what we now call our computer information technology degree. We have a web and mobile development option, which is really JavaScript, PHP, you're really programming websites. And that's an entire option devoted to really web programming. But if you're going into things like network administration, things like shell scripting, batch programming, there are a lot of things that you can customize as a network administrator, especially by writing your own custom programs. One of our network engineers at my college, he worked with us for a number of years, and we'd ask him to do something and it would just be, okay, let me change the script. Is he doing 2,000 line programs or 800,000 lines of code? No, absolutely not. But being able to put stuff and get it to run automatically, sometimes 20, 30 lines of code, having that programming background certainly can help you with that. Even nowadays, some of the four-year schools, I do see they include pretty much, what is our 2-year curriculum in computer science. If you take computer science 1, computer science 2, data structures, depending on what you want to do, if you just want to be a network administrator, that's a lot of programming. But certainly having some background makes sense. Mathematics, when I was in college, a lot of the question was, what do I do with a math degree? And, for a lot of people, the answer was teaching. But we're starting to see that this is folding out into other areas, and data analysis, statistics, these are going to be big areas for the future. You'll find that there are languages, I think I mentioned Excel when we talked about engineering, but also there are areas like R programming, which you can use to really do data analysis, and it's really a specialized type of programming. Someone like myself, I could probably go and pick it up, but it's not something, even 20 some odd years ago that they taught me when I was in college. But it's the type of thing that having this foundation is good because it opens you up to not just be a math teacher. It opens you up to work in industry. And as I mentioned before with computer science, you're starting to see some of these schools do data science degrees, which is going to kind of marry mathematics and computer science. And finally, some schools may not offer this, a lot of schools won't, but we do offer a medical informatics degree at our college, which is designed to transfer to NJIT, New Jersey Institute of Technology. And one of the big areas and one of the reasons you find programming so prevalent is they're looking to do things like medical equipment programming. From my perspective, I went in and had a sleep study done at some point for sleep apnea. And the guy who was the technician for the device, it turns out he had studied information technology, decided he didn't like it, and went back into medical assistant. So he actually kind of was the perfect candidate for this because he understood the technology, plus he understood the medical stuff. So things like, how do I get data off of this device? How do I analyze it? In this type of area, you're finding there's a lot of innovation, and especially with the coronavirus things. As I'm recording this, we're in the midst of the coronavirus. It's June 2020. What you'll find is that companies are going to be investing in this type of area. How do we do stuff remotely? For insurance companies, they would much rather not have to send a visiting nurse to someone. Is there equipment that can be created, and there certainly is, that you can create and use to monitor people, connect to a wireless network, and send those results to a doctor. And it's not only sending them, it's also securing them, protecting it. There's a lot of privacy laws, things like that. So at least at my college, these are the main areas where you would find programming, kind of the logic behind each of those areas. So, my plan is to do some further videos on this, but I did want to at least talk about why programming, why do I have to take it, and give you a little bit of background into what is it, and hopefully you found this helpful. So if anybody is interested in having some questions answered, you guys are going to be very helpful in that regard. people who are educators sometimes suffer from what we call the expert's blind spot. And that is, the more I know about a subject, the less likely it is I'm going to remember what it was like to know nothing about that subject. So, I listen to my students. I try to figure out what sort of stuff is causing them problems. But if there are things that you're struggling with, I'm certainly going to spend some time making some videos. We're moving to online, and it's definitely going to be a challenge for some of our students. So whatever I can do, whatever resources come to mind, please let me know. All right, thanks.